It's time to become a historic person from Oklahoma. You're going to be putting your presentation together as though you're preparing it for third grade students. Why third grade? Because in the Oklahoma academic standards, we see that 3.3.12 examine notable historic and present day Oklahomans utilizing biographies and informational texts such as. Now, that certainly doesn't mean it's limited to these people, but these are people whom I hope will all be represented as ones that you select. So at this point, you should have already selected your person and posted that on discussion board so that you can claim your person, since no more than one person can share those. And now it's time to begin putting together your presentation as well as your timeline, because those two things go hand in hand. We'll look at the presentation part of it first. You're going to be making a recording and posting it to discussion board. And your recording is going to be you as the person, not talking about the person, but talking from that person's perspective. You're going to be that person using first person pronouns like I and me and so on. The person you should have chosen should be born no later than 1950, because again, it does need to be a historic person. And you're going to do some research on that person's life and then give a short presentation, 3 to 5 minutes. You're going to begin with an introduction. It's important that your audience know who it is you're talking about and why. For example, if you just start telling third grade students that I'm Belle Starr and I was born in what's now Sequoyah County, and then I did this and that and that, they don't have any idea who you are. They don't have a reason to care. But if you let them know that, hey, have you ever heard of me? I'm Belle Starr, and I was maybe the most prominent woman outlaw from Oklahoma. Give them something that they're going to be interested in, and then get into telling us about your life. It's okay to give a little bit of information about personal life, like spouse, children, things like that. But it's more important that you give us information about accomplishments, events, challenges, what happened in that person's life that made their accomplishments so important. Why are we still learning about that person today? You need to do something with your appearance that has to do with that person. It could be as simple as, wearing a scarf and or a hat, or carrying a baseball bat and a glove, something that is representative of your person. You don't have to memorize a speech because you're going to be using your timeline as a guide. It's kind of like the presidential artifact presentations that you did, where you used those 5 items to guide your discussion. You didn't write out a speech for that. You don't need to write out a speech for this. You're going to show us your timeline, and then you're going to use that to guide what it is you're sharing with us about that person. Really think about your inflection. Make your speaking very clear. Don't speak too quickly. Consider that third grade students may actually be watching your video, and that it may be one that you want to keep and share with your students later on. You also may want to keep some of your peers' presentations to use later on. You may end up teaching third grade social studies, who knows? And even if you don't, you still can do some things with these presentations to share with your students. Now, when you do the timeline, this is the part where if students lose points, this is usually where it is. And I don't know how to express this more clearly, but on the timeline, you must provide historic context. Why is that person's accomplishments, or why are that person's accomplishments relevant? Why are we still reading about a person who may have been born in 1860? What does that matter to today? What did they do that was such a big deal? Well, we need to know the kinds of things that they overcame, what kind of challenges they faced. So as you are considering the items that you're going to put on your board, consider not only events about the person's life. I mean, yes, if that person had, 7 children and got married 3 times, it's okay to put a little bit of that information on there. But what's more important is the accomplishments that have to do with why that person is known now, and historic events that were taking place. They may have been specific to Oklahoma, may have had something to do with the Dust Bowl or the Spanish flu, or it might be something that was an international event or a national event. You need to consider those and put some that would have been relevant to what this person did. Think about using some kind of coding, such as the example that I showed you with the color coding, and make sure that it's easy to tell the difference between them. And again, I showed you the example of this one. This one's a good one. Is it perfect? No, but it's pretty good. This person gave us our key up here of what the different colors represent and gave lots of examples. President Roosevelt appointed Alice Mary Robertson as postmaster in Muskogee these years. And then if we want to go look at some world events, we can see World War I here, World War II, or the Great Depression here. You don't need to write anything out in sentence form. You can just put words and phrases to indicate your events. Let's look at what's going to be scored then. So I used bold to kind of show you what each item is for on here. Notice that that hook is very, very important. That is worth 1/8 of the score here. Because if you consider your audience and you don't provide something for them, you're not going to keep their attention. If you're presenting Pretty Boy Floyd, for example, and you just start telling us about where you're from and how you grew up and how you worked, the fact that you're a famous outlaw, if you don't even mention that until later, they're not going to be that interested in it. But if you draw them in, telling them about who you are, then they're going to be much, much more interested. Notice that you need to have at least 2 evident props for part of your appearance, and then 25 points for the content of the presentation. And that's not just giving a list of things and reading that from your timeline, but also putting in some of that person's character, some of that person's personality a little bit. If the person you think might have been funny, then throw in some humorous lines. If you know that the person did not like another person, or anyway, had some kind of strong dislikes about something, anyway, throw those in too. Make your person come alive and be real. And again, stay within that 3 to 5 minutes. And then you need a conclusion. Don't just end with, and then I died in 1963. That's not the end. So what happened? What was your overall impact? Maybe was there an impact because of your death specifically, or because of what you accomplished in your life? And then again, on the timeline, notice that 10 of the points are for the appropriate entries about the person, and then another 10 points for your connections to local and state, national, international events. I'm really looking forward to what you do with these projects. I love watching the videos, and I'm excited to see how you're going to take these and make them your own and make them into something that you might soon be sharing with your own students.